I'm Keith Vitali, and welcome to Sidekick Podcast. I'm so excited today. No, I'm honored today to have on a very special guest. He's appeared in over 75 films, and so many I can't mention, but I can mention a few of my favorites. Starting off with his role he played as Boyka in the Undisputed series. I love Avengement, It Man, Accident, probably my favorite of all of them, The Expendables, and he just starred with Keanu Reeves in John Wick 4. I consider him not only a great actor, but probably one of the most skilled, talented martial artists ever to appear on films in the likes of Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee. That says a lot. Say hi to Scott Adkins. Hi, Scott.
Hello, how you doing, Keith? It's been a long, long
Uh,
time.
it really has been. We go all the way back to the action film camp that I first met you. We were producing it with Keith Strandberg and Michael D. Pasquale, and it was the first time that I was aware who you were. We started this camp to find fighters and train them for our films, and I've said this on many of my own interviews, my podcast. Get this, you came in and you started performing, and I looked over at Keith Strandberg and I said, I have two sensations right now. I am overjoyed. I have just witnessed the greatest martial artist I've ever seen.
Okay.
My second sensation was I was depressed. I had just witnessed the greatest martial artist I had ever seen, and I knew I could never do anything you just did. And I looked at Keith and I went, "That's not even possible what he's doing." So congratulations on your career, on everything you've done. But you were just a phenomenal martial arts athlete that just took this industry by surprise.
Oh, thanks, Keith. Thanks for those kind words. That's too much. I appreciate it. Yeah, oh God, I learned such a lot on that seminar. That was the first time I'd been to America. I can't remember how I heard about it, but we used to have the martial arts magazine those days, right? It's probably in there somewhere. And I remember, because my parents, they didn't have a lot of money. And I mentioned it to my mom and dad. I'd love to go and take, be in this seminar because I loved all the no treats, no surrenders and the seasonal stuff. And my uncle had some air miles left that he needed to get rid of. So he said, I'll give you the air miles and you can get the plane to Atlanta. And my mom was crying when I got on the plane because I think she could tell that I was a bit nervous. I'd never been on a flight that long before, but I desperately wanted to achieve this dream I had, I thought, what better place to go and do it at this? What was it called again? The seminar. Do you
It's,
remember?
it's called an action film camp.
Action film
And
camp. Yeah. And I
right.
learned
And
so
we
much.
staged,
That was the
yeah,
first thing. And I remember the towel drills and everything where we were kicking the
right.
towels and then he had to react. I remember a guy saying, I don't know which of you it was, but reacts like you're being burnt with a hot iron. And that made perfect sense to a body shot.
Well, Keith Strindberg and I started producing films where he was producing it first before I joined him, but I was one of the actors. But we found that the local people you would pick up, the martial arts fighters, you put them in the films, they had a hard time with reactions. And
Yeah.
so it was just frustrating trying to train them on the set, wasting all that time. And it's just
Mm.
difficult. So we figured out a way. We said, let's start an action film camp and market it, bring people in. And we'd have 100 people come in usually these camps, and we just go through the training, and then we would kind of cherry pick the ones we wanted for films. And we probably put 100 different people in films, in the industry that way. And so it
Yeah.
was very successful for us.
I really learned a lot. I mean, my first job was a Hong Kong movie where I really learned a lot there as well. Baptism by fire, but yeah, picked up so much off you guys. And I remember Strandberg, he wanted to put me in Blood Moon.
Right.
But I remember they used so much of the visas on the Hong Kong crew that he wasn't able to get me over in the end, which was a shame.
It
Still waiting to
was
do my seasonal films movie.
it was frustrating for us because we thought we had found Bruce Lee, Chuck, all of them rolled into one, and we were so excited about you. And it was the first movie I co-produced with Keith Strandberg. I found the studio, and we got, of course, Gary Daniels just
Yeah.
a wonderful martial artist, and the late Darren Shabali,
Yeah. Darren
who
was great.
and get this, I was going, there's something in the water in the UK because all three of you guys could do things that most of the actors, martial artists in the States couldn't do. And I just kept on going, oh my gosh, it's just incredible. But Gary was just he still is a good friend of mine, and I really
Yeah.
enjoyed working with him. A guy, he could just do anything. I know you guys are friends as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, fantastic. I think what it is about the UK, I'm not sure if this is necessarily true, but I think I was told once that back in the 90s, early 90s, we had more access to Hong Kong movies than Americans did. That's what I was
Right.
told once, and it kind of made sense. There's a whole generation around my age that grew up watching the Jackie Chan movies and all those Hong Kong martial arts films that got very inspired. I think maybe they came a bit later to America or they were harder to get.
Right, exactly. And there were the American style films, the Don Wilson, Art Camacho type of fight. There's so many of those, totally different than the experiences I had doing the Hong Kong films with Jackie Chan and those types with Tony Leung with seasonal films. It was a whole different world. So I'd go from one world like Revenge of the Ninja doing, movies with Sho Kosugi, and nothing like experiences I'd have with the other films. But they're much
It must have
harder
been
with
quite
the
an.
Hong Kong films.
I want to talk to you about the No Retreat, No Surrender 3 and obviously Wheels on Meals. How was it for you then you know, to do the film fighting in Hong Kong or the Hong Kong style for the first time?
Right.
What
It
did you
was
think?
it was it was difficult at first, but I was coming off. I was an athlete and I was competing, so I was
Yeah.
in great shape, and I was known as a kicker. And what most people don't realize is that Benny and I went to Barcelona together to work with Samo and Yong Val and Jackie.
Did you know
And
Benny
at
before
first,
that?
yes, I did a film with Benny called Force Five,
Oh yeah.
and I was supposed to be one of the actors in that, but I screwed up on my audition. That Robert Klaus looked at me and says, "Ah, you're just a stunt guy." So I didn't even get one of the starring roles, but Benny did. And so I was part of that. It was my first fight scene against my mentor, Richard Norton. And so I've done some films with Richard Norton. So I was just blessed to do that first fight scene with him. But it was a good experience. But Wheels on Mills was so good. We had a lot of training. We would put it together, but nothing like we do now where you rehearse. It'd be on the set. And get this, the first time I was doing my first fight scene with Jackie Chan, it's like one-on-one stunt fighting teaching. Jackie comes to me and he goes, I said, Jackie, we're getting ready to shoot. Robert Chow's, Raymond Chow's there, and there's all the actors. There's 100 people on set. We're going to do a big scene. And I looked at Jackie. I said, Jackie, we haven't rehearsed the scene yet. He goes, and he sat down and he goes, throw some kicks for me. So I jumped up and I did a bunch of kicks and spuns, and I'm a pretty good kicker. And he literally stood there like this, and he goes, on his leg, he goes, I said, what are you doing? He says, I'm working out the beat, the rhythm of the fight. I said, what are you talking about, the rhythm? He says, you can take the two best fighters in the world, you put them together. If there's not a beat, a rhythm, your subconscious mind will not like that fight. He says, but what we're going to do is we're going to put something rhythmical together. And then that's what he did. And I was like, I'm like a kid in a candy store going, oh my goodness, this is pretty good training from the master himself.
Yeah, wow, yeah. Yeah, because it helps if you know the rhythm of the fight, right? Because for people that don't know, like you don't want to get hit in the face for real when you're doing a fight scene, although sometimes it does happen. That's part and parcel of it. But you find that when you know the rhythm with your partner, like you're dancing, you know what the choreography, you know when the technique is coming because it's based on the rhythm. So you can like
Right.
stay in the pocket a bit more and stay within the danger zone a bit more because if you're both within the rhythm, you know when to move and when not to. Um, and that's what I think it's all about for
Well,
me. The rhythm of the fight
I
for the audience, but also for us, the performers.
well, people didn't realize at the time I was witnessing the end fight scene for Wheels on Mills with Benny and Jackie Chan. And
One of the
they would
greatest fight
film.
scenes ever made.
So I'm doing my end fight scene with Young Bao down at the bottom of the castle, and then we'd finish shooting, and then we'd go up to watch Benny's. And believe it or not, Young Bao, he was old school traditionalist. He liked long legs. He liked long spinning moves. And every time Benny, they were putting the fight sequences together right there, and they would rehearse it. And he would chat me, go, don't like, don't like. I said, what don't you like? He goes, too close, too short. He didn't like Benny's short legs. But now, after I'm watching it, I went, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. There was no music, no editing, no. And I went, I've just witnessed in person without any special effects the best fight scene I've ever seen. It was remarkable, just remarkable. And Benny took a lot of punishment because Jackie was just sticking him. I mean, literally, they do the close-ups, and they put the
Yeah.
powder on, they split you, and then they just smack you. And they set us up.
What?
And
So what? Benny was like, "Yeah, just hit me. I'm hard. I can take it. Give me your best shot."
yeah, and it didn't matter because Samuel Hung told him. Samuel goes, he go, Benny, you okay? And Benny started it himself because Benny, they were doing close-ups. And Benny's would have I just did a fight scene with Benny a couple months ago. And so I know Benny really well. So Benny is the toughest man alive. I don't think he feels pain. I used to fight him. I'd hit him with the hardest techniques and he wouldn't even budge. I go, but anyway, Jackie would hit a close-up and he would stick him 3, 4 hard close-up techniques during that fight. And then cut and Samuel go, Benny, okay? And Benny go, no problem. Well, he kept on saying no problem, which was ticking off Jackie and Jackie's entourage. Because then Jackie would look over at his people, and then Benny would just look over at me and smile, and then, okay, let's do it again. And then again, 1, 2, 3, and then he'd stick him harder. And then he'd go, Benny, okay. And Benny look at Jackie, and then look at him and go, no problem. And I went, oh my gosh. And
Yeah, they
then
were
he just
quite
got
competitive
vicious.
with each other, weren't they? I've heard all the stories about how Jackie kept saying, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
going to fight you at the end of this movie," and then by the time
Yeah.
they'd done the fight, he was like, "No, no, I'm not going to fight you."
No, it wasn't going to happen. But I'm more
But Keith,
concerned
Keith,
about
do you remember
about you.
how long did they shoot? How long did Benny shoot that fight with Jackie for? Do you remember? How many
Yeah.
days?
That's it probably took 2 days, but I'm talking just the
2 days.
inserts
I imagine
alone
it'd be
took
more than that, more than 2 days. I imagine like a week or
no,
something. No?
no, no, the other ones for seasonal films took a week, but
Yeah.
not,
Well,
no, they would just,
normally, yeah. To do a fight of that quality, they must have been moving really fast then. And
and they'd only do 3 or 4 takes. And then they go, good, let's go, let's move on. And then
oh,
they put
right.
the next segments together and they kind of work it out together. And Sam would add his 2 cents in. And mine, they wouldn't, they just had it choreographed already. And Samuel would just tell me, he's just try to hit him. Here's your routine. And Young Bao is the fastest just human being alive and talented. And I really got along with him well. He goes, try to hit me. I said, okay, I'll try. I couldn't even catch him. And then they ended up hitting me over the head with a vase
But you're a
because they
pro
said,
fighter. You're a pro fighter, and you couldn't within the choreography or like for real.
yeah, I just stay within the choreography, but they were
Yeah,
such
there you go.
warm and
You're
good
too
people.
kind. You're too kind, Keith. I know your game.
Oh no,
You're a gentleman.
oh no, no. I was fortunate to come from an era of a lot of fighters and formed. We just had a great group of people to think about. We had Cynthia Rothrock, we had Billy Blanks, Keith Cook. We had so many of these people, Don Wilson, Jeff
Yeah,
Amata, John Valle, all these people that started, and then we all went into films, and so all branched different
yeah,
directions, which was really nice. I don't care
yeah.
about me. I'm more interested in you. And I know that I've seen so much of your stuff, but I just want the audience to know that how early did you think about getting into films? I know that you have a vast variety of styles that you study, but when did
It's
it
the
hit
first
you in
thing
your
I
mind and say, I
remember.
want to be a star?
It's the first thing I remember. I remember telling my parents I wanted to be a stuntman. And then that became, I want to be an action star. I remember watching Bloodsport and being like, I was already massively into Bruce Lee. Jackie Chan, those films hadn't come out yet, which contradicts what I said earlier about Hong Kong movies coming out before America, but they came out kind of after Van Damme. A stream of Hong Kong movies started coming out then. But when I saw Bloodsport, I vividly remember saying to my mom, I want to do what that guy does. And that I made my mind up for sure then. I wanted to be like an action martial arts guy. And I dreamt the dream for as long as I can remember and used to go down the bottom of the garden and pray to God, please, please, I have to be part of this. Please, can you just let me be part of this? And I think if you visualize something so clearly and work so hard to get there, you can't be denied, right? But I didn't know. I was scared that it wasn't going to work out for me, but I always had that dream.
Well, the good thing I think that you did that you incorporated gymnastics, and most people don't, and that gave you an edge and gave you another dimension in your fights. And when you got the role for Boyka for the Undisputed, it I think it changed your career. I think that's probably what catapulted you into stardom was that role itself, or was it before then?
No, I'd say it's Boyka, but it wasn't. It didn't happen overnight. That film became a cult favorite, and then by the time we did three, and we did another one, of course, um, eventually. But you have to remember, I don't look like Boyka, so I wouldn't walk around being recognized. I mean, I remember being with Michael Jai White. He came to London, and we went to a martial arts show, and people were stopping him and they're all saying, "Oh, Undisputed 2, man. Undisputed 2 is brilliant." I'm standing right next to him and he's like, "You do know who this is, right?" And they're like, "No, this is Boyka." But nobody ever recognized me because I look so drastically different. But yeah, meeting Isaac
Uh-huh.
Florentine and doing Special Forces, the film before that.
Right.
And then he really fought for me to have that role as Boyka. He had to fight the producers to make it so that I was playing that part, and so I owe a lot to
How much
Isaac.
weight did you put on for that? How do you muscle up and how much weight?
I had a good lead in. I had quite a bit of time, so it was about I don't know 4 months of just eating as much as I could and training hard. I mean, yeah, I was in good shape before that, but I went to the next level with it. I mean, you got to because Michael Jai White's so huge. How was it going? I just felt like, how am I going to play a convincing villain against his hero? I've got to go for it. So I put a lot of muscle on. We use kilograms over here, not the pounds. But
Oh, I see,
normally
I
I'm
see. My
about
bad, my bad.
84. Yeah, I'm about
Right.
84, 86 kilograms. And I went up to 90 kilograms for Undisputed 2. I
Wow.
was carrying around a bit of fat and water, to be honest. I was more ripped in the third one, but looked bigger for it in a way.
Well, Malcolm J. White's a personal friend of mine. I was just with him a couple months ago, and he's a terrific athlete. I think together you two just were a dynamic couple, in your fight scenes. And what got me was was it two? Wasn't that the one that you fought him that you really had JJ Perry come aboard and then kind of work some of your moves and you
Yeah,
did three things.
JJ was the fight coordinator. And the speed ramping was something that he suggested. He'd been watching this Robbie Williams video where they were using the speed changes like that. And he brought that to that movie, which Isaac then used in every other subsequent film. Um, but yeah, and Mike was like helping me out a lot, trying to make himself like he was bringing his weight down as I was trying to
Right,
bring mine
right.
up. He was, putting me up on a box so because he wanted to look the same height. He
Well, you
wasn't doing
did.
martial arts, and that was frustrating him. I knew he wanted to start throwing some kicks because he was seeing me have all the fun.
Well, he's the real deal. He is bona
He is,
fide, just
yeah.
one of the baddest men
But
on
he
this
was playing a
planet.
boxer, you see, so he couldn't do much kicking. I could see he was getting frustrated, like, man, I want to do some kicks.
You did a few. I just want to mention three because I want my audience to go watch this film. But you did. I'm sitting there watching, and I'm like going, I've never seen this before. You did like a 720 or something, but then you did an inverted kick backwards to hit his head. And I went, you can't do that. You just, I don't know, but your foot went backwards to hit him in the head.
Oh, the Guyver kick, yeah, the Guyver kick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
But then
was
you did.
from a film called The Guyver, Dark Hero, and there's the stunt coordinator UG for Special Forces. He performed the kick in Guyver, and he knew that I could do it, and so we put it in Special Forces, and I brought it back for Boyka, and it became my kick really.
Well, you have to have hang time. We call, basketball playing. You go up for a jump shot and you hang and then you shoot. You have to have hang time to get up, get the air to do what you're doing. And it's so difficult. But then you did a somersault and you were sideways and he came out with a side kick. And I went, I've never seen that either. who's making this crap up? This is the most beautiful things I've ever seen, but I couldn't even create that stuff in my mind. Was this J.J. Perry just having fun going, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this?
Well, yeah, because there's a kick where I run up somebody's chest and I do they call it a flash kick, you know, and I land and I do a somersault. And I didn't know that I could do that. I'd pushed off somebody's chest before, and then I would land on the ground, and then I would side kick them. That was on my show reel for a long time. But
Right.
JJ's like, "Do you reckon you could run up his chest and flash kick him?" I said, "I don't know. Go on, try it." So he would push me, and he would elevate. In Wolverine, we came up with this move where I'd side kick one guy, and then I'd do a full 360 spin horizontal like a butterfly twist off the guy, and then kick somebody else. And so he would push me to do things that I didn't know I could do. And that's what you need from a fight coordinator. Now I'm like, no, I don't want to get injured. Let's stick to what I could do.
Well, I think for me, the next phase of your career, everybody has their opinions. When you did Avengement, see, most martial artists and film stars, I don't know of any of them that would have done what you did. You have no ego. You care so much for the film. You put a grill in your mouth. You shaved your head. You came out of
Yeah.
it was just the ugliest looking mean. And I went, and it was some of the best action, best acting from you. And I went, this took you to another level because I'm 90% hair, 10% substance. If I don't have my hair, I'm nothing.
No, I love playing a character. I actually prefer it when because if you're the good looking hero or you're supposed to be, sometimes you wake up and you look in the mirror and you think, oh my God, I look rough today. It's another thing to worry about. But if you're playing a part where none of that matters, it's a lot more freeing. So I always like to try and create a character and have a lot of fun doing that because I started acting, age 18. Started young and I was on the stage and everything, doing Shakespeare and all sorts. So even though I wasn't as good as an actor as I was a martial artist, like martial arts came naturally to me, the acting took a bit of work, but I always, really appreciate getting to play a character.
Christ, this ale tastes like shit, Bess.
That's because I poured the drip tray into yours, darling.
It's about time we got on with it then, isn't it, eh? Guess you got a pretty good idea where this is going, Lincoln.
Well, I'd say here's the difference in you and I. When I first started, I was more concerned about my stance. Samuel Hunger's getting ready to say action. I'm going, what's my style? I didn't even know. I had no sense of who I was. Do I get low?
I know
None of
what
that
you're
matters.
saying,
None
but
of that.
I know where you're coming from, Keith. I used to think the same thing. I used to think, I don't know that I know what my style is. And then I realized that my style is no style. I'm just hard. I'll just play it like I don't care, hands down, wait for the kick and then
Right.
react to it. Rather than figure,
If
I
I
used
had
to
to do
think,
it
well,
again,
what's my pose? Shall I do a wushu one? Shall I make it Chinese?
right.
Shall I do something? I can't do what Van Damme does because everyone's doing that. What is my style? I used to think this.
Most people are thinking that I'm much more intelligent than that. No, that's where it was. It was when he says action to. And then I figured out. I wish I had just stood there and looked menacing if I could look menacing, versus doing the little hokey pokey whatever I did. But I didn't
Yeah.
care. But here's my favorite of all your films. John Wick, of course, blew me away. You in that suit. Your role wasn't as long, but you technically that's all people talked about from that film. The fact that you could do what you did in that film was just it's incredible. And a lot of films I've enjoyed, they're all great, but when you did Accident Man and the
Mm.
first one with Amy Johnson and Michael J. White again, and that was good. But here you figured out a secret to filmmaking that most people haven't figured out. You did the second one. And it's so good because you put depth with your characters. Your characters were so rich, they had a history, but you gave them a history because you did a voiceover. You introduced the characters on film. So now we can identify with the characters, good or bad, it doesn't matter, but we know who they are. And they were deep and rich. And then they were just so fantastic. And just made the film so fun to watch. And then this Andy Long came on. I stood up and I was doing this going, Who can do what that man just did? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the
So
next generation.
congratulations on that film.
Yeah, no, thank you. It was a project. It was a comic book that I loved as a kid, so it was very dear to me. And I managed to get the rights and produce it. And I wrote it with my friend from school, Stu Small, and we've wrote quite a few things together now, Avengement included. Um,
But you
but
produced that and you also choreographed that film.
yeah, well, listen, I learned that ignorance is bliss. I didn't want to
Right.
know what I knew was going on behind the scenes because it's so stressful. I don't like to do it. I'm more of a creative producer than a producer. I can't crunch the
Right,
numbers
right.
like those guys do, and I don't want to because I'm too like emotionally involved. You've got to be like hard and cold with it and just cutthroat to be a good producer. I just want to spend all my paycheck on the movie, which apparently is not good. My agent tells me, but anyway. I'm glad you
Well, let
like
me ask
Accident
you.
Man. That was very personal to me, those two movies, and I'm hoping to do a third one
Oh
very
yeah, I
soon.
can't wait. Let me ask you about another scene. You did a kitchen fight scene with this female. How long did it take you to rehearse that, to film that? Because where you put your cameras, we're always conscious of your lighting and your cameras, but I don't even understand how you can film it because you're all over a kitchen.
Yeah.
So, and how long does that see? Do you do four, five, six moves at a time and stop, and then add six more moves, or how do you film that scene?
So we filmed it in Malta, and actually, I knew that we didn't have enough time, so we filmed the beginning bit, and then when we go in the kitchen, we stopped, and I said to everyone, because this is the beauty of being a producer, I said, "Look, we're going to figure out, we're going to film this back in England. Let's get the top and tail of it. Let's get after the kitchen because I really wanted to make it good. And so we did one extra day shooting back in the UK to film that whole extra sequence. No, oh, sorry, no, the kitchen was in Malta, but there was a whole bit
That
in
was the hall.
a hall before that. Yeah, that's right.
Right,
And
right.
so that was an extra day of shooting. Um, but yeah, we just rehearse it and go for it. But with that film, there were two directors, Harry and George Kirby. They're brothers. George is a professional stuntman, so he really understood how to film everything. And Harry, he's like more the writing side of things. And together they're a great team. But we use the wide angle lens, and we know how to shoot the fights and make them look really good.
Well, how many moves or techniques would you perform? Like six, eight moves and then cut? Or there's no master. You can't do a master from that because it's all over the place. But so how many would you do before they would say stop and let's put this before we go to the next segment?
We just do it till we're happy. You know the drill, Hong Kong style. Just keep doing it until we're
Yep.
happy with it. And we need someone there that
Well,
we trust. That I'm sorry, my son is banging on the door, and I told him not
take it,
to. Can I just
do
tell?
it, do it.
All right.
Yeah, bring him in.
You,
That's fine.
no, you don't want him in here. Let's not do that.
One more scene in that film. You were on the rooftop fighting like the black guy from Nigeria, whatever, and he had weapons and you had weapons. That
Yeah.
was so intricate, so hard to film. I don't even understand the concept of doing that. I fighting Jackie. I was doing Samo and Yong Bao, and they had a weapon. We did over 50 takes, and I was short compared to yours. I mean, are the times you forget your steps or your moves, or you just really have to rehearse because it looks like you guys missed by inches with weapons the whole time you were filming.
Actually, I think it's easier doing the weapons stuff. I mean, I'm not like a weapons master or anything, but I've got a little bit of skill. But because when you're doing a proper fight, because you're smashing bones against each other the whole time, flesh on flesh. It's a bit more intense, but obviously you don't want to get one of those things in the eye. But because you're not clashing bones, it's a little easier on the body, so kind of enjoy it. But yeah, we
It
wanted to
was
put
it
a
was
weapons fight in there with a bit of flair, and I did a bit of wushu back in the day, so I could twirl the staff around
yeah,
quite well.
yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
that's that was
But
incredible. It's
Keith,
one of
you're
the most
you're you're
dynamic
amazing,
scenes.
mate. You're amazing. You inspired me so much as a kid. The films that I
Oh
watched you
gosh,
in. I loved No Treat No Surrender 3, Blood Brothers, so much. I've
the
seen that
Lauren
film so
Avedon.
many times. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
that was great. I've watched that film so many times. That end fight, going up the whatever you call it, the scaffolding and everything. That must have
Yeah,
took a
yeah.
long time. How long did you
So
shoot
that did
that?
take a week. It was a week.
Yeah.
That did take a week, and that did take 10, 12 hours a day. And that was brutal, because it's in the summer, it's hot. You can't have the air conditioning running, and it's so hard. Tony Leung was a phenomenal stunt coordinator. I wasn't a big fan of Lucas Lowe, the director. But he didn't have
Yeah.
much to do with that. He just let Tony do most of what he wanted to do. And Tony was really good, but he was demanding, just demanding. And there was things like he'd go, "I'm so limited. You guys are so talented." He'd go, "Keith, you're going to do a kip up with your gun, and you're going to." I went, "What's a kip up?" He goes, "Kip up. You jump up." And I went, "I had a cast on because I broke my arm, and I had a gun in this hand." And he goes, "You just lay on the ground, you pop up." And I went, "Can you show me?" He goes, "Stop." And they told his crew, says, "Teach Keith how to do it. You got 5 minutes to learn." 5 minutes
Oh,
later, let's go, let's roll. And I jumped up and I had the gun and I shot. It was the first time I've ever did it. It was right there when he taught me how to do it.
because you got the gun and you got the cast, you can't use your hands really, so it's all
I had to
neck.
use the back of my neck.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
so you did
And
well
I'm
to
not,
learn that in one day because a lot of wushu guys are training from age 6 to do that.
oh no, I learned that in 5 minutes and I am
Yeah.
not talented like you guys. Oh no, there's like, oh my goodness. And so I just did it, but it was fun working with Lauren Avedon. It was a little frustrating working. I like Ryan Hunter at the end, not during the process was fine. He's one of those actors. He came in character. So I don't care. I just do films. I'm nice to everybody. And I put my hand to shake his hand, and he goes, "I don't like you." And I went, "What do you mean you don't like me?" He says, "I'm the bad guy. I don't want to like you during the film." And I went, "It's called acting.
Yeah.
It
Let's
doesn't
hope you
matter."
like me during the
So
fight scene because we don't want to actually be smashing the hell out of each other more than we need to.
and then after the fight came out, after the film came out, my son kept up to me. He goes, "Dad, you were terrible." I said, "Why?" He goes, "You and the alarm guy took two of you to beat an old man up with white hair." And I went, "It's in the script." And I get mad at Keith Sternberg, and Keith goes, "I know you're thinking of yourself, not the storyline." I went, "But we couldn't beat an old man up." I'll tell you a quick story
But was
about.
he I know he was
Maybe a
doubled
martial artist.
quite a bit, but he wasn't a martial artist.
No, maybe a green belt. Maybe I don't even think he had any
Yeah.
experience at all. He's a good athlete and very
Yeah.
good, more athlete. But they doubled him in every scene,
And
and
the other guy was a real martial artist with the beard, right? Wasn't there was another guy? Am I confused?
um,
The guy with the beard.
yeah, Mark Russo. There was another guy named Mark Russo was in
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
and he was good. Everybody was good. Everybody in there were just best of the best. And it's the hard part about doing seasonal films is, and they're Hong Kongish, of course, but they love the aesthetic beauty of the techniques. And when I was producing a movie with a Blood Moon for Gary Daniels came to me and he goes, "Keith, can you just do me one favor?" He says, "I've been fighting and fighting and fighting throughout this movie, but every time I just want to hit one person or kick one person and have them crunch and fall on the ground to showcase my power. Could you go ask Tony Leung just to give me one scene, not the whole movie, one scene?" Steven Seagal, he just looks at you, hits you, and you die. You
Yeah.
hear the bones crunching, and everybody, and Steven is powerful on film. So that's what Gary wanted. So I go over to, I'm the producer, so I go over to Tony, and I've done 3 movies with Tony already, so I know him. And I go, "Tony, can you just do me a favor? Gary just wants one scene. Can you just create one scene for him to showcase his power?" He goes, "No, I'm not going to do it." I said, "Why not?" He goes, "Because you're an American. You're thinking like Americans or for people from Europe." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "We don't care about power as much as the aesthetic beauty. We want to see
Hmm.
multiple techniques and we want to see beautiful techniques. And I'm making this movie for them, not for America." And I said, "Oh, I got to go back and tell Gary."
Yeah, but that's great because that's what I mean. I can only speak for myself, but that's what I loved about those movies because they were directed by
Uh-huh.
Hong Kong directors and action directed by Hong Kong directors. It just had a completely different feel to them. They were
Oh,
American
yes.
movies, but the fights were, they were cheesy. There was sometimes you were laughing at the wrong things, but the fights, the action was so incredible
Right,
that,
right,
and all the other movies that were coming out at the time couldn't compete. They were on another level,
right.
action
No, I
wise.
agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, No
So
Treat, No
let me,
Surrender 1. I mean, that was incredible. And then number 2, and then 3 with you, and right up to super fights. Loved them all. I watched them all the time.
yeah, no, I love doing them, and it's really strange. It's pretty good because Keith Strasberg and I were friends, and we were working for a company, and it's called Impact, and you would hit this target, and it would register how hard you hit this target. It had an LCD readout. And Keith was the writer, and I demonstrated that at tournaments, and I'd go all around after my fighting career. And then Keith said, "Well, I'll start making movies," and then I started my direction. He went his direction, and then we'd hang out all the time. We're still friends today, and. So he said, why don't we just start doing some movies together? And that's how we started doing them together. So it was pretty
Yeah.
cool. We were film friends before then.
So you produced Blood Moon. Um, did you produce Super Fights?
I did. I produced that one with Keith, and I did Blood
What
Moon.
about American
And then I
Shaolin?
did, no, I didn't do that one at all. I did a movie called American Kickboxer 1, and I did that in South Africa with John Barrett.
Was
And
that
so I did,
after No Treat, No Surrender 3 or
yes,
before?
it was after.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Um,
It's pretty good. I just remember I choreographed that. I didn't start as the fight choreographer, but 2 weeks into the shoot, the owner called me up and said, "Keith, can you choreograph the fight scenes?" I could because it was in a ring and everything were boxing rings. I could chore, but I couldn't do what you did in Accident Man because I never performed katas or forms in tournaments. So my mind wasn't geared that way, putting together. I could just fight. I was a fighter. And I'd hang out with Mike Stone, Chuck Norris, all those guys in the old days. Those were my inspirations. I'd hang out with them and train and fight. But it was harder for me because I didn't know how to project my emotions like actors do. Because when they get on film, they realize you're telling the story through your face. And Jackie Chan would come to me and open my eyes and go, no, more face, more face. Because I thought I could do it, but as soon as the director would go, "All right, ready, quiet on set, action," and I go right back to my ring
go
again
back to
because when
fight
you're in a
mode.
ring,
Yeah. Yeah. You're hiding
you're
your
fine, but you don't
emotions.
project. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't. Somebody hits you, you don't go. Ah. Whereas I
Yeah.
hit Jackie, Jackie would just explode, and fall on the
Yeah.
ground, sometimes crying. And I go, and Benny looks at me and goes, "There's no crying in karate," and I go, "But he is." It's just, but
Yeah. Well,
he just
you'd
really
have
was
to break
expressive.
a lifetime of habits from hiding, your punches, hiding your emotions. You have to completely change your mindset, don't you? But for me, I was training in martial arts, the reality-based side of it, but always with the mind to, I want to get into the films as well. So I was always thinking that I would make my own home movies with my friends doing fight scenes. So, always doing it from a young age.
So now I know, like the Accident Man, you did a lot of the duties from producing to writing the storyline, and then starring in it. It takes so much effort. Just when I produced the film and starred in it, I couldn't even. I was just worn out. I couldn't imagine putting the fight sequence together. Have you ever thought about directing it as well?
Yes, trying to make it happen. I won't say any
Good,
more than that. I've got
good.
the project. Just trying to make sure that everything is going to be, I don't want to blow it. I want it to be good. Everything has to be right. Otherwise, why am I going to do it? I want to give myself a second career almost. As we get older, I probably can't smash myself around as much as I'll try my best, but I'd like to have something else to do as well as I'm advancing in years. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, not yet, but I'm thinking in the future, 20 years ahead. But yeah, I want to make sure everything's right. And in terms of getting tired, like doing this, the writing and the producing, the only reason I do it is so that I can have creative control of my films, and I'm not at the mercy of waiting for the script. Because inevitably, what happens, you can be waiting for a good script to come around, and maybe 6 months later, you're still waiting, and you end up taking something really crap just because you got to get paid and put food on the table. So I'm actively creating my own projects and writing stuff these days and
Okay, good
producing
for you.
for that reason, so that they can be good. I want them to be good. I don't want to do bad movies. I want to do good movies.
Well, your movies are very good. the general consensus of everybody I've interviewed so far, and I've interviewed the very best of the best, all these great guys from Richard Norton, Cynthia Rothrock, and all of them, Lauren Avedon. The consensus is you're the best we've ever seen. Everybody starts off thinking, well, who's your favorite? They all point to you, and they always go back. Well, it started with Bruce Lee, but now it's you. And, so you should really be proud of your career and everything you've done because you're leading the next generation of martial artists, which is something to really be proud of.
Oh, thanks, Keith. I really appreciate that. It's hard to take on board. But you inspired me greatly. I want you to know that, like, truthfully, especially that experience, seeing you in the movies, but that experience in Atlanta, learning screen fighting from you guys, yeah, it really helped. So you've helped me get here, my friend. So I just wanted to know that.
Listen,
We're standing on the
I want to
shoulders
thank
of
you.
giants anyway.
Oh, my goodness. My goodness. Well, thank you so much.